So before you upgrade to Ventura, it's important to understand the requirements. And the requirements, as with every version of the macOS, are a little bit more stringent than they were in Monterey and earlier. Every time Apple puts out an update, they make it, they drop off a number of Macs from previous iterations, and pretty much anything earlier than 2017 at this point is not going to be compatible. So on the right side here, we have all of the compatible Macs. So you got to be running a MacBook from 2017 or later. I think that was the last time Apple put out a MacBook, just a straight MacBook. MacBook Air from early 2018 or later. MacBook Pro 2017 or later. Mac Mini from 2018 or later. iMac and iMac Pro from 2017 or later. The Mac Pro Towers from 2019 or later, which would be all the newer cheese grater models. And then the Mac Studio, which is the newer Mac from 2022 or later. Now, Apple's been a little vague about the other requirements. So normally they'd say, you know, which version of the Mac operating system do you need to be running? And everything I've seen is you got to be running Catalina or later. Also, 4 gigs of memory was Big Sur's or Catalina's minimum, because every Mac model that Apple that's compatible with Ventura starts with 8 gigs. 8 gig is now the minimum at this point. Although in many cases, I would definitely recommend going to 16. One of the reasons is because most of these Macs, there's still a couple of Macs, most of the Mac Pro Towers, but some of the laptops are still running on Intel processors. But almost everything now is, everything else is Apple Silicon, M1 or M2. And with those, you have to specify the amount of RAM you want when you buy them, because you can't upgrade later on. The other thing about the M1 Silicon on chip processors is they have something called, I don't know, I forget what it's called, but it's the memory is all the same. So it makes it a lot quicker. Applications don't have with the Intel Macs, if you wanted to display something on your screen, the CPU would generate the code for it, and then that would shift it from the computer's memory to the video card's memory so it could display it on your screen, and that slows things down. With the integrated memory that we have in the Apple Silicon chips, the CPU generates the code it needs to display the things on the screen, and the video subsystem pulls that data directly from the same area in RAM. So they're using the same amount of memory. So having a little bit more memory than the basic gets you a little bit more performance. And so 8 is the minimum with Ventura. 16 is probably what I would say is the functional minimum, especially if you're doing a lot of work with video or audio or 3D or anything like that. And it's starting to look like 32 will become the new standard down the road. Again, the more things you do with the Mac, the more memory that you're going to want to have installed. And then the amount of storage space, Apple does not actually in their specs list specifically how much storage. In previous versions of the macOS, it was between 26 and 44, depending on which operating system you upgraded from, whether it was the base, which was, well, previously the earliest version of the OS you could upgrade from was macOS 10.9. But Apple's now recommending you be running at least Catalina or later, which is 10.15. So 26 would be the absolute minimum. That's actually double the size of the installer. The installer, when you download it, is a little over 12 gigabytes. So having a copy of that and then running and installing it, you figure it's going to at least install another 12 gigabytes, maybe more. So the absolute minimum I would think would be 26. Although you definitely want to make sure you have way more than that. If you've got 26 gigs or less on your system, you're having performance problems because the system really wants a lot more space on the hard drive in order to function properly. And most computer experts recommend between 10 and 20% of your hard drive's capacity to be free for the system. So for example, if you've got a 1 terabyte hard drive, you'd want to leave about 100 to 200 gigabytes free, just to make sure you don't have any significant performance issues. So you definitely want to make sure you have well more than 26. Also, if you've got any Mac whose storage device is a solid state drive, one of the ways that Apple prolongs the life of these things is through something called wear leveling. And what that means is that the system writes data to different cells. All of the cells in a solid state drive have a limited number of read and write cycles. And so if you constantly are reading and writing to the same cells over and over, they will eventually die, and the system will have to move on to something else. Enough of them go bad, and then your SSD actually dies. But just, again, all good reasons not to completely fill your hard drive. Performance and improving the lifespan of your solid state storage. As with all previous versions of the Mac operating system, a lot of the features, more specifically the iCloud features, anything you're doing with the iCloud services, mail, contacts, calendars, reminders, notes, shared bookmarks through Safari, the keychain, all these other shared options are all going to require an Apple ID. In fact, you need an Apple ID to download Ventura. Any questions about the requirements, what's needed to actually run Ventura? Definitely before you upgrade, you want to make sure that your Mac is qualified to run it, and that you have at least, like I said, 8 gigs of memory and more than 26 gigs of storage. All right. So, again, as I said, there are still some Macs available that are compatible with Ventura, but there are some features which are only available if you're running Apple Silicon, because Apple Silicon, for one thing, has a machine learning engine. They got a number of cores just for machine learning, and that factors into creating a number of options. So things like spatial audio in FaceTime when you're running your AirPods. If you've got the Maps app, there's a 3D globe option that's available. If you zoom all the way out, you get a globe you can spin around and then focus in on something. And then they have more detailed renderings of the cities in the 3D view also that are only available if you're running Apple Silicon. On-device voice dictation without having to be connected to the internet and with no time limit. Typically, Apple's dictation service requires that you're connected to the internet because everything you're saying is being sent to an Apple data center, interpreted, and then sent back as text to your system. And there's like a limit on how long you can go at any given time. And then portrait mode in FaceTime is also. Now, new in Ventura are these other 3 options that, again, require that you're running it on an M1 system. The first one is live captions in videos and also in FaceTime. So for that, you've got to have an M1 processor, essentially. If you've got any of the new Apple Silicon or M1 or M2 based iPad Pros, they've got the really nice high quality screen that can actually be used as a reference display for video. It's that good, apparently. And so if you're using your iPad as a second monitor in FaceTime, you can use it in something called reference mode, where you get more accurate video quality for previewing your video or doing color correction. And then another feature is inserting emoji into text that you're writing using voice dictation. These are all, again, things that are only available on Apple Silicon-based Macs, while, again, some Intel-based Macs are compatible with Ventura. These features would not be available on those systems. So definitely something else that's important. All right, so that is pretty much the slideshow portion. We'll come back to this other stuff at the end. So let's start taking a look at some of these newer features. And we're actually using one right now. We're using the continuity camera. This the way you're looking now is from my iPhone 11. You need to be an iPhone 11 or later to do this. Let me grab my iPad so you can just see what's going on here. So I'm going to, this is a feature that was introduced with the last OS, Big Sur, and that is being able to mirror my device on my computer. So here is my iPad. And I'm going to go ahead and get out of that. I'm going to go to my camera. So here's my setup. There's my Mac Mini. There's my monitor, which now goes into infinity. For that. But on top of that, you can see there is my iPhone, and that is the camera that is currently being used. And there's really nothing you need to do really to make that happen. Let me turn this off. As long as you have a compatible phone, iPhone 11 or later, running iOS 16, and you're running Ventura, you just have to have your camera close to the screen or close to the computer. And then you can select it in other applications. So for example, if I bring up QuickTime Player, whoops. So here's QuickTime Player. This is a video app. I'm going to go ahead and create a new movie recording. And so here you can see right down here, I'm running a Mac Mini. The Mac Mini has no camera. And so if I click on the camera selection option, oh, I'm running a FaceTime display. So yeah, I could switch. And so so you can see this is a different camera. This is the FaceTime display on my monitor here. But again, I can switch back to my iPhone camera. And so now we're looking at a different angle. Notice the quality. Let me just jump back real quick. You can see how much warmer I look, and the lighting is a lot better on this. If I go back to the built-in FaceTime camera, and this is going to be true for most of your Macs that have a built-in FaceTime camera. Notice the lighting is a lot different, a lot more washed out. It's a much cooler kind of a look. You can see all my other computers in the background. You can see I use a lot of computers. But let me switch back to the iPhone camera. So a slightly different angle because it's over my monitor, but you can see it's a lot warmer. There's more red in the image. The lighting is a lot better. The quality is a lot higher. This is a 4K camera on my phone versus the HD camera on my screen. So you can, this just works. It just, your phone has to be running iOS 16 or later. You're really got to be running Ventura. And as long as your camera is close to the phone, you'll get a little option and it will appear anywhere you would use a camera in any app, like here in QuickTime Player. Let me quit that. And I'm using it here in Zoom as well. So the really cool thing about this is, again, your camera phone is actually a very high quality camera, and you're going to get a lot better video quality out of that. In addition, not only is it a higher resolution camera, but the phone itself, because again, it's using, depending on your processor, it's using machine learning as part of the camera process. You're getting much better lighting, especially in low light situations. As well as other things. It's almost worth picking up, like if you can find one, an older used iPhone just to use as a webcam. So that's one of the big new things that the Apple introduced, is this continuity camera function. Now you've had the ability to work with your phone in a continuity situation for scanning, using your camera to scan documents and things like that. And on your iPad, you can actually use it to create notes and things like that. But this is just a whole nother step up from that. Okay, another new feature, I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit. So another feature, and this is something that you're going to want to definitely take a look at, that is, we no longer have system preferences. It's now called system settings. If you select it, you'll notice it's a lot more like the settings on your iPhone. So we no longer have the grid of icons and you select those items. We now have just a list of different settings that you can go through, and things are located in different areas. And so this is something you will definitely need to get used to a little bit if you've been using the older version of the Mac operating system and you've been using the system preferences. So here under network, we list all of our network interfaces. To view the information about them, you just click on the disclosure triangle to the right here. That will take you into that particular view. And again, you get more options for things like deleting the service, making it inactive. If you want to play more with the actual details of this, clicking on details brings up another slide, and you can go through. This would be under the advanced settings in system preferences for the network. Things like your TCP/IP and DNS. All your advanced setting options here are available and accessible. It's just a little bit different than you're used to. But again, part of what Apple has been doing over these years with each update of the Mac operating system is to sort of integrate it more between all of their devices. So iOS, iPadOS, macOS, they're making things a lot more integrated as a whole. So again, under general, we have our options for software update. We can see if there are any updates available. And here you can download the update to Ventura if you wanted to go through that. I shouldn't have anything because I just upgraded. You can see I'm running 13.0.1. That is the latest version. They do have a beta for 13.1 that is being, and that will probably roll out sometime later, either this month or early next month, based on the normal timing for those kinds of things. But you have, again, you have all your options that you had in system preferences. They're just located slightly differently, and you might need to access things in slightly different locations. But pretty much everything works same. Internet accounts, there's the same option there. And again, you can get more information about that right from that option as well. And then other things as they pop up. So these are other specific things like InkPods Pro, my keyboard, my trackpad, because these are connected, they show up here. If I added a mouse, then I would actually have a mouse pop up here as well. In fact, let me connect a physical mouse just to see that. So I've got this wired mouse. I'll just connect this to the back of my Mac here real quick. Sorry. So there's a lot of things that happen dynamically. So now you can see I have a mouse entry, and so I can adjust tracking speed, double clicking, scrolling, and things like primary, secondary button, and if this does anything, or if squeezing does everything, and so on. So options are added. So if I unplug the mouse, you can see the mouse option goes away. So there's a lot of stuff that happens dynamically. There are other options that appear and disappear. For example, profiles. If you are managing your devices through some type of mobile device management solution, like Apple's Profile Manager, or Jamf is probably one of the most popular management systems out there right now, then if you're using profiles, there'll be a profile preference that will appear and display information about your profiles. Again, if you're not sure where something is, you can just go ahead and do a search in the search field here, and you can go right to the appropriate setting option that you want to play with that pops up. So this is probably one of the biggest, one of the biggest visual changes in how things work in the interface is the change from system preferences to system settings. And they've made that throughout the entire operating system. So if I go back real quick to Keynote, and just let me go back up to here real quick. So if I go to the Keynote menu in the menu bar now and click on, there used to be a thing called preferences. So they've changed this not just in system settings, it's now settings in all of the compatible apps. So pretty much this is a system-wide change that they've applied. It's a lot more iOS-like, and they've made the settings change throughout the entire system. It's not just part of the operating system itself or with system settings. They've made that significant change. So that's another thing. Another big change visually is something called Stage Manager. Now, you may have in the past known about working with different desktop systems. So, for example, Apple has the ability to create multiple virtual desktops. So I could actually click the plus button here and add another desktop. And I could actually click on that and I could load an application. Let's say I'll load up Notes. And so that app now lives on that desktop. And I can actually pin it to that specific desktop if I want to. Now I can bring up something called, and I can switch. So now I can switch between desktops here. And I can do that by just using Expose. So Expose is a feature, a multitasking feature. I don't have anything on there. It's a multitasking feature which allows you to view all of your apps and windows in one view. So let me go ahead and open up a couple of things. I'll open up music. I'll open up podcasts. And I'm doing this for another reason too. News, reminders, calendar. So I got a bunch of apps that are all running right now in my window, and I can switch between them by using the dock. I can switch between them by hitting Command Tab on the keyboard and bringing up the application switcher and just moving between them if I want. But I can also use something called Expose. If I use 3 fingers and swipe up on a trackpad, there's a keyboard shortcut for this as well. It's like F3 on your keyboard for function keys. Now I can see all the open windows in all the apps that I have running on my system. And then 3 fingers down will switch to a different app, or I can just click on a different app and that will bring that app forward. Now, if you had an app like say Safari, let me bring up Safari here. I have it running, there we go. Safari can actually have multiple windows, and there are a number of apps that can do multiple windows. So I'm going to create a couple of new windows here. So again, if I swipe up, there's all my windows for all my apps. So I can see them. I can switch to any window simply by clicking on that window. But I also have something called App Expose. If I swipe 3 fingers down, oh, I have to enable it. Hold on. App Expose has to be turned on. App Expose. There's mission control. And you got options for grouping windows by applications and so forth. Where's my App Expose? Oh, here we go. App Expose. I have it turned off. So in trackpad, if I turn this on, swipe down with I'll swipe down with 4 fingers. You can choose which fingers. So if I swipe down with 4 fingers, I see just the windows for that one app. And if I scroll up again, I can switch, or I can just click on a different window and move to that window. 3 fingers down or up. Oops. Otherwise, so the full Michigan App Expose gives you everything. And then, of course, you can switch between desktops and that switch between different options. So Apple's taken that a step further. Let me switch over here. So we have something called now Stage Manager. Stage Manager exists on the iOS platform for iPads as well for multitasking, but on the Mac, to enable it, you could simply go to Control Center. Here you have a Stage Manager button. Click on that to turn that on. Will give you this if you haven't turned it on before, and you say turn on Stage Manager. Now Stage Manager is on, and so you should have, hide some of these apps here. So now we have all these icons on the side, and I can change an application by simply clicking on that. Why are we not switching? Oh, maybe because everything's hidden. Let me just unhide everything. Hold on. So you can click on specific windows and move forward. Why are they not coming up front? Hold on, let me jump to that. We have a bug, I guess. Hold on. There we go. So in theory, I can switch between apps. So switching. So there we go. I have to have at least one app open, I guess. That's interesting. So again, I can just click on one of these icons and switch between any one of these apps. And that will jump between that. So I've got this little option here for moving things around. And I can even group apps together. So let's say I got notes is on that. I'm going to go ahead and drag that over to the other window. Hold on. Quit notes and reopen it on that window. Okay, so in that space. Launch notes. So I want the notes and the reminders and the calendar app all to be associated with each other. So I can, so I go to notes here. I can drag that to one of the other workspaces. So where's the workspace reminders? But basically, you can group these guys together. In theory. Come on. I love it when a demo works. Well, in theory, you can group apps together, and so all the apps would be part of that as an option. You can actually group them and put these together and put them side by side. The news, here we go. So drag the news out. So now these are linked together, the notes and the news. The reminders, brings up that all by itself. So if I go back to here, you can see they're both down there. So the notes and the news are together. So if I want to add, let's say I want to add the reminders to this grouping, just drag it out like that. And so I can be working with multiple apps together, and I switch between them again. All three are grouped together. So if I've got several apps that are related to each other, and I can resize them and reposition them so that they're all, like, say, it's my notes on my screen, my reminders. Maybe I'll make that a little bit smaller. Put that over here, and then news. I'll make that. So I got to move the zoom windows around too. Okay. So again, any related apps can be shared with each other. And again, you can jump to a different app and do something different simply by clicking on the stage manager icons on the left edge of your screen. So again, lots of new things that you can play with regards to multitasking. So again, that's another feature. And again, you can enable that or disable that right here for the command. If you don't want stage manager, don't like working with that, you can turn that off, and then you're back to your normal how everything works. Hit kill some of these. All right. I'm just going to kill some of those pages. All right. So Any questions about working with Stage Manager? It's just a new option for multitasking. It's supposed to make life easier. It's definitely something that is helpful on the iPad. Again, this is something that was rolled out with iPad OS 16. Now, a couple of other features. Apple introduced a couple of new applications when they introduced Ventura. One is a clock app. Now, we had, if you remember the notification center, which I just popped up now, you can access the notification center by clicking on the date and time entry up in the upper right of the menu bar. Clicking on that will open or close that. Or if you've got a trackpad, sliding from the off the trackpad onto the trackpad on the right edge, just sliding from right to left, that will bring this up. You had a clock widget in the notification center, but you had no app. All you could do is set different clocks for different time zones, and that was it. Now we have a full clock app. And with the clock app, oh, why are you doing that? There's a bug. When I do a search in Spotlight for the clock app, and to open it up, there we go. To click on it, if I hit return, it opens up system preferences. So here's the clock app. You got your world clock. You can set different clocks here. So let's add a clock, and let's go to, say, I don't know, Ottawa, Canada. No. There we go. I was spelling it incorrectly. I apologize. So there we have the Ottawa clock, and you can drag these around in order of importance if you want. And Ottawa is about the same as East Coast time for us here. But you can see you got your 9-day view. It also highlights on the map here, highlights every clock that you put in there. In addition to the world clock options, you've got the ability to set an alarm. So again, you click the plus, and we'll have the alarm go off at, say, what is it? It's 10:45. Let's say 10:47. In a couple minutes. And you can choose what type of item you want, and we'll save that. You can even snooze it. And so in a couple of minutes, the alarm will go off. We also have a stopwatch feature if you want to time something that's happening. And you've got a timer if you want something to occur for a specific amount of time. Like if you want to say work on a project for 30 minutes or take a break for 15, you can start that timer, and you can add multiple timers for different items or different elements. And again, you set the timer, the time that you want, click start, and the timer will start cranking. And you can pause it and then quit it when you're done. So the clock app is a new application for the macOS Ventura. I'm pretty sure it was pulled from the iOS. Apple has a technology whose name I can't remember right this second that allows developers to easily convert iPad apps to macOS apps, partly because now pretty much they're working on the same processor, since iOS devices are using Apple Silicon just like many of the newer Macs are. The other app that we got is the weather app. And so we actually have now, again, just as before with the notification center, we add a weather widget so you could actually watch the weather. So if I go down to the bottom here and say edit the widgets, there's a weather widget. And so you could actually put this up in your notification center. Add that. And then you could, something's locked up here. I'm done. Oh, that's interesting. Another bug, I think. It more or less locked up. Ugh. This is not a good time for a bug to pop up. I apologize. Hold on. I have to say, this is the second time I've seen this bug pop up with the Notification Center. Fortunately, let's see. I'm trying to figure out if I can get out of this somehow. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to get back in. Give me a second. Oh, wrong. That's why. Definitely the wrong meeting. Okay. Okay. I'm back. Hold on. That was a definite bug. It froze, it crashed. I'm back. And I apologize for the interruption. Hold on, wait. Okay. Well, we are not going to go there again, but so let me jump back to the weather app. So the weather app allows you to set up the weather for different locations. You can see I have a few different locations already. Here's where I'm at, more or less Del Mar, San Diego. Here's where I'm from. It's a lot cooler there. Irvine, Chicago, Santee. To add a location, to go to search. So now we have Ottawa. It'll take a moment to read the data, and then it should pull up the weather data for that location. And not sure why it's taking so long. Regardless, you get your map. You can zoom in on that to see a lot closer where the weather is in your area, what's going on with that. You get the forecast, a couple of different ways, daily, hour by hour. And again, you can tap on any one of these things. So you can check out things like the UV index, what it feels like, sunset, wind, and all these different options, a lot of different elements. So again, this is a new addition to macOS Ventura. All right. Now, some things they've done to Spotlight. So Spotlight search, you just hit Command Spacebar or click on the Spotlight search icon up in the menu bar, and you start searching for what you want. But what they've done is they've improved things like searching for photos. So for example, if I'm looking for photos for clouds, it'll search your local system for files or anything that has the term clouds in it. But if you go down here, it's searching for images and folders, and it even has folders. It looks for apps that are clouds in my Photos app. Oops. Oh, so back to, hold on. So again, and then here I can actually just search right in the app. And again, that will bring up the app and it will look for anything that has clouds. Now that's odd that it doesn't pop up because I do have a bunch of my library cloud photos. Well, that's interesting. Well, they were in here the other day. Let me go ahead and add those. Hold on. Finder here and go to my downloads. I downloaded a bunch of cloud photos yesterday. There we go. And I can add keywords to all these. It's funny because I did this yesterday and then for some reason they're now not there. The keyword clouds, and a title, cloud images. Okay. I'll quit that. So again, I can just go to Spotlight search and just do a search for clouds. And again, it's going to search the internet. So it's going to search all over the internet for images. And again, it's going to search in my app itself and show me photos. So there's lots of different places and areas where you can go and view photos. Now, if I want to view anything, like here's a website, I just select that, hit the space bar. Quick Look now works directly within Spotlight. So Quick Look is Apple's previewing option. You do not have to have an application. If someone sent you a Word file, but you did not have Word, you could simply select it in the Finder, hit the space bar, and you could actually view the document. And so you can view pretty much any supported type of document. So here are the images at the space bar, and it just shows me that. And I can go through and just cycle my arrow keys and go through all those as I'm going through all these different elements. So again, these are all fun things that you can do. I mean, they've just added a lot of things to Spotlight, little things to make it work just that much better and give you a lot more flexibility. Another thing that they've done, so let's see here, is they've added more options for live text. So with live text, you're able to basically, in an image that has text, let me go to Safari and let me just do a search here. Come on. Images with text. So here's an image with some text, and with live text, I can now just select this, right? Copy it, and then I could go to, say, text edit and create a new document and just paste it into text edit. So that's something we're able to do in Big Sur and so on. But now we can go a step further. Let me go ahead and hide this. And in the Finder here, I have a couple of movie files. This is a movie file of video. And it's a movie file. You can see it's moving around. So I'm going to pause that. Oops. Pause the playback here, right there. And now I can actually select all of this text in a video file that I've paused. I can copy that and I can paste that into a document. So if there's information, text-based information in a video file, pause the video, and you'll be able to select the text, copy and paste it into your document without any problem. And I got another video file here. Same thing, still different. Oops. So I'm gonna pause that. This is the book cover, and again, I can just select that text. And as you can see, it doesn't take very long for it to recognize the text. It's all the machine learning that's built into the Mac operating system. So that, again, you have the ability to manage the live text, and live text also supports more different languages. So not just English, but other languages as well are selectable. Let me kill that. And let me go ahead and close that. Let's look at Safari actually. So in Big Sur, we had this new thing called tab groups. And essentially what you would do with a tab group, let me close some of these tabs. And so you could go, and so here's one tab. I can create another tab, and let's just say MSNBC. The web page. Okay. All right, CNN. And say Politico. So if you like these websites, you can save them by clicking this option up here and just create a new tab group with those tabs, give it a name. And that's one option, but now you can go a step further. If you want, you can actually share this tab group with other people. So I could say share tab group, and now I can choose specific people to share it with. I can go to the Messages app and then share that with contacts in my messages and send them that. And once I have configured that so to be shared, other users can then see the same tabs. They can add or remove tabs in that shared tab group. Now you all have to be running on iCloud and with an Apple ID for this to work. Once you have created a shared group or a tab group, up here you got this new icon here, and so you can message anyone in the tab group. You can also manage the tab group, where you can add or remove people here, so to stop sharing or copy or link the participants. So you've got a lot of options for working with your tab groups. Another feature they have is a new start page functionality for a tab group. So if I select a tab group here, oops, like that, and I go to the bookmarks menu and I say show start page. Now I'm looking at the start page for this tab group. Oops. Go back to the start page. There we go. So I can actually change the options on the start page. So right now I've got favorites and I can add or remove favorites. I've got sites I've visited frequently. I've got privacy report information, Siri suggestions, a reading list, and I can change these options. I can go down here and click on this icon down here, and I can select what items are displayed in my start page for my stat group. And I can use the start page on all my devices. That means if I go to my phone or my tablet, as long as I'm signed in with my iCloud account, these start page options will appear on all of my other devices. I'm not going to do that because I don't want them on all my devices. But if there's something that I don't want, let's say I don't care about my Siri suggestions, or I can change my background image to something else. So I got all these images here I can use. Or I can choose a completely different background image. Let's just go ahead and go with, so I want that one instead. But I could actually say, go to my desktop here and I could grab one of these cloud images, let's say, and I could just drag that into the background. And so now that's my background image. So there's a lot of things you can do to customize your start page. And now you can do that per tab group in your tabs. So again, there's a lot of different options that they have set up. And they got another new thing that I can't really demonstrate because I don't have an account set for it, but it's called passcodes. Previously, if you wanted to set up an account with a organization, you would type in your username and password and set that up to be your sign-in. Now you have the ability to create passcodes, and you can turn this on. If I go to system settings, and I can just search for this. Interesting. Well, I know if I go down to the passwords, password preference, passwords here. Go to password options and autofill passwords. That needs to be turned on for that to work. And then you can go into the Safari preferences and enable the passcode options there. That way, instead of creating a username and password, you set up a relationship with the organization and you set up a passcode. The passcodes are more secure because they only exist on your computer. So they can't be compromised as easily as the password can be. And so it's stored safely in your keychain. And so the passcode, just like other elements in your iCloud keychain, can be accessed on multiple devices. So there's a lot more flexibility there. Another thing we want to show you is some updates they've made to the Mail app. So the Mail app, you now have the ability to unsend a message. So I'm going to go ahead and send a message to myself. Okay, there I am. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and send that message. And you notice down at the bottom, we have this undo send. That will be available for the next 30 seconds. So I can click undo send. And so now that message has not been sent. What's happening is in previous versions of the macOS, when you sent a message, it was sent. Basically, when you click send a message in the Mail app in Ventura, it puts it in the outbox, but doesn't send it for 30 seconds. So within that 30 seconds, you can unsend a message by clicking on the icon at the bottom. The other thing that we've got is this ability to send a message on a schedule. So if you don't want to send this email right this second, I can say, send now, send at a specific time, or send later. So we'll send it today. It is now 11:09. We'll say 11:11. Oops. And we'll schedule that. And so what'll happen, so we got a new send later mailbox that pops up. So in another minute, that message will be sent. So the Mail app has the ability now to allow you to unsend messages before they get sent out. You can schedule messages to go out at a specific time. Also, if you look at a message, you can right-click on a message and you could say, remind me. Say, remind me in an hour tonight, tomorrow, or later. Say, remind me at 11:12. Whoops. And so that will remind you, and you got a remind me thing here, to look at that message. So if there's a message or messages that you want to come back to later because they're important, but you don't want to deal with them right away, select them, right-click, choose remind me, set the point in time when you want to get that message back, or review those messages, and that will remind you and it will bring that item up. Jason, it should work in any supported video format. So definitely things like MPEG or Apple's video format, but it should work with any supported video format. I haven't tried any of the others besides the MPEG that came out of my phone. I recorded those videos on my phone, but it should work. The live text thing should work with any supported video format. All right. So those are pretty much mostly the things that okay, so I just sent the message. And it's reminding me to, so here's reminding me to just pop that message back to the top of my list to view. I don't know why this didn't get sent yet. It should have been sent at 11:11 a.m. Yeah, it should have gone. So I'm not sure why it did not go. It worked. It's worked on my other computer. I know it does work. I'll go ahead and quit that for now. So let me do a couple of things. First, let me go back to Safari. This overview is just a small sampling of all of the different resources, new features in the Mac operating system. I go to apple.com and go to the Mac entry, and then go to the Ventura option here. I got an overview, which is a nice view of the different options. But if you click on this feature here, show all new features, this goes through the entire list of new features that Apple's advertising. This Freeform, this is a new app that you can sort of brainstorm. Think of it as like a built-in whiteboard sort of option, because you can share it and collaborate with other people in real time using it, but you can add any content that you want to it, images, text, and whatnot, draw. And that's something new. This is in the 16, it's in the 16.2 iOS beta, and it's in the 13.1 Ventura beta. So it's not released yet, but I'm guessing it probably will come out with the 13.1 update when it's released. Apple said they were going to delay this. It was one of the features that they're advertising. That's part of that, part of the operating system, but they did not release it at the time they released Ventura, but it is coming out soon. So again, security, privacy, new accessibility features, option with Apple Pay, the clock, dictation, dictionary, focus. Oh, focus. They added new filters with focus so that you can look at specific apps or content when you set up a focus session. So they got new filter functions in the focus capability. So, I mean, there's just tons of new stuff. You can definitely go through this and take a look at all of these. We'll be doing classes in Ventura starting early next year. We'll have a full gamut of like the same 3-day class we do for Monterey. We'll be doing that for Ventura very soon. So let me go back to my slideshow, which, because I could, so let me bring up Keynote. And let me go ahead and play this. There we go. So we go play. So thank you once again for attending our presentation on what's new in Monterey. I'll hang out for a little bit after we get done with this to answer any questions. But for having attended this presentation, you are now all alumni of the FMC training program. There is an evaluation. In fact, I'll put the evaluation information in the chat in just a moment, but there will be an option for that. If you want to view our classes, you can go to fmctraining.com/browse-courses and then do a search for whatever particular course that you want to view. So you're absolutely welcome to look at that. In addition, we also have partnerships with other technology providers. One of them is Dell. To find out more about that, you can go to www.dell.com/FMC training. They do offer promotions and discounts on Dell products. I use a couple of Dell LCD monitors for different things. In fact, my main computer is a 14-inch MacBook Pro. I've got a Dell LCD display on that as my secondary monitor for most of the things that I do. We also have a video discussing the partnership at vimeo.com. Put in 418-046-352 to search for it, and that will bring that up. In addition, you can find FMC also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The other partnership that we have is a company called Saramonic. Saramonic is a vendor who provides a variety of equipment for any kind of video, vodcasting, broadcasting, streaming, whether it's headsets, microphones, stands, backdrops. They provide a variety of different items to make your online streaming productions as professional as you can by providing the support equipment for all of that. And again, if you go to saramonicusa.com, you can view their catalog of products. And if you use the VIP support 20 code, they will give you a 20% discount off of one of their base professional kits. So just a couple of things real quick. Let me hide this. I'm going to bring up my. Here's the. Okay, hold on a second. Let me look for an evaluation thing here. Okay, so I'll change this in real time. I'm going to grab all this text and I'm going to put this in the chat. So if you click on the link, that'll take you to the evaluation page. For the basic class information, you've got what's new in macOS Ventura. You've got the date, which is today. I'm the instructor. The location is online. Otherwise, fill out your information. Let us know what you think about the presentation, what was good about it, what was bad about it. This helps us provide better presentations for you in the future. and helps us develop our classroom options. So that concludes our broadcast day. I'm happy to entertain any questions. If there is something that we looked at or showed you that you'd like to see again, if there's something you have a question about regarding anything that I showed you, if there's something you were hoping to see that you didn't see, I am more than happy at this point in time to talk or display it. So definitely, if you've got any questions, let me know. If you want to see something, let me know. Otherwise, once you've completed the evaluation, once you complete the evaluation, you'll receive an email with more information about FMC and possibly discounts for future classes. And hopefully within the next week or so, you'll also be able to get the video replay of this if you'd like to go over that again in the future. You're welcome. So definitely questions, whatever you've got, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, once you fill out the evaluation, you're free to go about your business in your normal state of lives. And anything more on passkeys? Sure. Hold on a second. Let me just check one thing here. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Hold on. I'm going to share this with my other computer. So I haven't done passkeys yet. Hold on. So here is a web page that goes into passkeys in more detail. So basically what happens is with passkeys, what they create is a public-private key pair, similar to with SSL and TLS, basically. So it's definitely a public key option. The private key is kept on your computer, and the public key is shared with the service or app or item that you're trying to communicate with. You've got to have iCloud passwords enabled and keychain. So in the settings, you would go to system settings. You click on your Apple ID options here, go to your iCloud settings, and then make sure that your password and keychain option is turned on here for that to work. And then so again, no need to use a passkey. When you log into a website, it'll show the option to use the iCloud keychain. It will use Touch ID or Face ID to verify your account. And you'll have directional access. So you don't create a password. You don't have to worry about remembering a password. It's going to use your biometrics. So you've got to have Touch ID or Face ID to work with this also. And they can work alongside existing passwords, but for the time being, this is now mostly on Mac devices. Now it is the technology for passkeys is open source. It's an open standard. Sure, hold on. So it's likely that Windows and other Unix will also start working with passkeys. I mean, there's a whole push basically to get away from passwords and some of these other methods of authenticating to services. The other cool thing about passkeys is they are resistant to being hacked because, again, the private key only exists on your device. The service that you're communicating with gets the public key, but they can't get the private key. And there are other options there are other, if I just do a search for, go here. Oops. I mean, they've got a bunch of different articles on, there's a Macworld article on how to use it. Google and Microsoft have announced support for it, but they may not be fully compliant. And again, this is based on a technology that is guided by something called the FIDO Alliance. And so you can read more about that as well. And so if your service supports this option, and again, because Apple's just now rolling this out for their macOS, iOS, iPadOS options, not every service that you might want to connect with would support this necessarily. So this is something that's going to roll out over time. But as more services support this, you can start retiring all of your passwords and start using passkeys down the road in the future. All right. Any other questions, comments? You're welcome. All right. Well, if nobody has anything else, I'd like to thank you once again for attending our little webinar. I hope that you will enjoy the rest of your day.